Okay. Well, we have recording going on for sure. And I'd like to welcome everyone to our show this week. And we have a very special guest today. Rogelio de los Santos is joining us from Monterrey, Mexico. Hello, Rogelio.
Hi, Rebecca. Very happy to be here with you.
Good, good, good. I need to roll the R's a little bit more. Rogelio, right?
Yeah, it works. It works.
It works okay. All right. So everyone, we're going to have a show today talking about a different country than what we normally focus on. So we're here with Rogelio from Monterrey. I first met him at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And we had a nice event, a nice barbecue event, Sunday afternoon of South by Southwest, and the governor or the a major official from Nuevo León was there as well, right, Rogelio?
Yes, we had people from the Ministry of Economy and also from the Ministry of Tourism with us that day.
Okay. Yeah, it was a great day. The weather was beautiful and the setting was great as well. Thanks to David Cow, who I hope will be joining us in Austin or wherever he is at the moment. Look, I would like to say a few words about Rogelio, who I told you I met in Austin and then I met in Monterrey. So I spoke recently in Monterrey at the Inc. Monterrey Festival or Summit at Tech de Monterrey and also at UANL. These are two major universities focused on business and technology, and Rogelio can give us more details about the focus of each one of them and what he's doing at each one of these universities, as well as the University of Texas in Austin. So for those who are just joining us for the first time, we've been hosting the Ask a VC show since COVID, since 2020. And yes, we've done more than 70 shows around the globe. And this is our first one from Mexico. Thank you everyone who's joining us today from south of the border. And we know that's getting a lot of attention these days with Trump about to assume office. And well, we'll be talking a little bit more about those kind of issues as well. So those who don't know me, I'm a journalist, I'm a book author, I'm a media entrepreneur. I've written 4 books. I have a newsletter, a Circle membership, and this VC show. So you can find me on all the usual social media handles, YouTube, Zoom, Twitter, X, you name it. I'm there. And 4 books. A 5th one is going on at the moment as I find time. So stay tuned for that. Here is a nice banner of Rogelio and Dalus Capital with a beautiful logo. I love that logo. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so a little bit about his background. He's been pretty busy deploying $175 million into 50 deals, and that's over how many years, Rogelio?
Around 11, 12 years.
Okay. He's a trustee at Tech de Monterrey. He's also a graduate of Tech de Monterrey, a mechanical engineering graduate.
Yes.
So he's gone on to be chair of its entrepreneurship center. And also he has sponsored a number of ecosystem development initiatives related to cross-border entrepreneurship and building up the startup activity and the tech activity in Nuevo León, which is has a lot of connections in with Texas. So we'll talk a little bit about this Texas-Mexico corridor as well. So besides the Ink Monterey Festival, he's been involved with Scale Up Nation platform and a Catalyst initiative. Okay, so that is a little bit about Rogelio. He lives between Monterrey and Austin. And I understand he lives between two mountain ranges in Monterrey. And or some mornings where the fog is not there, you can see both mountain peaks.
Yes.
So, okay, beautiful place. I was just there in Monterey and enjoyed it very much. All right, so everyone, back to full view. Rogelio, tell me a little bit about these startup initiatives that you're involved with. That seems to be really taking a lot of your time and a lot of your interest and a lot of your passion.
I know. And I thank you, Rebecca, for the opportunity of sharing some ideas and some part of what we are working on. I think that my interest in getting involved in developing an ecosystem rather than only operating a fund comes from a perspective that I take as a serial entrepreneur before I started investing, where early on when I was a student at Monterrey Tech, we created a nonprofit called Generación Empresarial Mexicana with the idea of helping students get connected to entrepreneurship and the world of business. And that got us all connected everywhere and with political figures and business people from Mexico and from abroad. But the following years, I ended up creating several companies, and we realized when I had my third exit in 2007 that the industry had not picked up, the venture capital industry had not picked up here, and there were several reasons behind it. And one of them is that we needed to basically reach out to the capital of our country in the hands of either institutional investors or families that led or have been building these big conglomerates to discover the asset class of venture capital and create some of the first ventures focused technology oriented early stage funds in Mexico and in Latin America. So to be able to do that, we had to convince different players in the ecosystem to think of what an ecosystem needed to be like, because they were not playing that role. And that turned out to be a very good bet because many of these organizations like CONACYT, like that's a Mexican Science Foundation, like the patent office that is called INPI, like the Ministry of Economy of Mexico, and fund of funds and universities. And these players back in 2007, 2008, they were not engaged and they didn't know exactly what the venture industry was all about. Long story short, we ended up creating first a visit of institutional investors to Mexico that showed that and demonstrated that there were no mechanisms to efficiently invest in Mexico in that asset class. So that started to create a thinking of a group thinking around what were the key initiatives that needed to happen for this to take place. And we created an event in Monterrey with the business school, EGADE Business School, to basically showcase what Mexico, a path for Mexico was different of what we have been doing, where we could find a country that if it invested in research and innovation and entrepreneurship, that we could reach higher growth rates as a country, but also diversify our industry more into the digital economy or knowledge economy. And we decided to basically partner with the universities. I was invited to be on the board of, became a trustee and invited to be on the board of Tec de Monterrey. And from there, we created an entrepreneurship institute called Eugenio Garza Lagüera. From that institute, obviously our mandate was, okay, make sure that 100% of the students of Tec de Monterrey get exposed to entrepreneurship. Now, it sounds easy, but it was a hard task because Tec de Monterrey has two universities, Tec de Monterrey and Tec Milenio. Tec de Monterrey has 100,000 students with 26 campuses throughout Mexico, and Tec Milenio has around 30 campuses with 60,000 students. So we needed to create things that could scale to be able to impact that many people at the undergrad or graduate levels. And we started testing things to educate or train more people around on topics of entrepreneurship inside the classroom, outside the classroom. Then we decided to celebrate entrepreneurship, very influenced by the visits that we were paying to Austin, to the South by Southwest. We said, well, we need to create a festival that can attract all the players of an ecosystem together and basically provide all types of resources to entrepreneurs of different types and different stages, celebrating entrepreneurship. And we launched that in 2013, our first event. I decided that I was going to sponsor and become the kind of the lead for the first event. And now we have done 12 years later. And through that process, that initiative itself has created a massive group of early adopters and innovators, where today, if I describe it, it's not only a festival that provides content around entrepreneurship and innovation, but also now engages corporations in initiatives of open innovation, like Heineken or Daikin, that are world leaders in their industries. But also we have a fair or the Future Now exhibition that includes a talent fair, because many of the corporations want to attract this profile of young people that are innovators or that are people that are open to change, to help their cultures and also the evolution of the big organizations that they're looking for them. That's one initiative, but I can say that we have taken a more abundant role, like, for example, creating the Entrepreneurs Association of Mexico and of Latin America. We ended up also with the priorities that the new administration in Mexico brought in 2018. We decided to create to embark on an acceleration program with MIT that is called REAP, Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program. And that turned into an initiative of how could we intervene with the participation of the government, state government, the corporates, the universities, the entrepreneurs, the funders, and all of the ecosystem development groups. Programs that could help us steer or build two capabilities. The capability of creating new and scaling innovation-driven enterprises. And our objective there is, if we can help create and diversify the economy of our city of Monterrey, where 20% of its GDP comes from IDEs, from innovation-driven enterprises, then we will have a much more competitive ecosystem and city playing in the knowledge economy. Mm-hmm. So these are some examples of the things that we have been doing on the ecosystem development side. And one of the initiatives that we have taken on additionally is that we wanted to be strongly connected to another ecosystem, another city. And we decided that linking, it's already very linked, but if we could link with stronger ties, the ecosystem of Monterrey with Austin or the Texas Triangle, that we could create a lot of synergies with what's happening on both sides of the border. So one of the paths that I took was that I joined the board of UT Austin last year the International Board of Advisors, and together with the IBA, we have been developing different initiatives. One of them is a Mexico strategy plan with different actions and projects. One of them is how we're linking now Tec de Monterrey with UT Austin with research programs on the health front. But we're also looking to launch bilateral competition platforms so that we can do 1 year at South by Southwest and another year at Inc. Monterrey, these competitions, and we get entrepreneurs and startups from both sides of the border coming up and down. So these are the kind of things in which we are also engaging, besides running and operating and investing funds, and that's the full-time job, no, in itself.
Yeah, a full time and a half for sure.
I know.
Yeah. So, well, what kind of impact do you think these programs are having? Or how are you able to measure that?
Well, I think it varies. No, for example, Inc. Monterrey today it has a community of around 145,000 people of early adopters. You visited us in this past month of November, and we had an event that was just a day and a half event. That's the executive session, let's say, the summit, and we had 2,900 people. The festival that takes place in March after South by here in Monterrey, we expect to have between 20 and 25,000 people attending or participating. Now, that in itself, it's a great way to come and visit and learn about Monterrey, because you will find a very vibrant, energetic ecosystem with many players from Monterrey, but also from the rest of Mexico, and also delegations from outside. One example is that we will have the board of UT Austin sessioning that week here in Monterrey. And we will have delegations from at least 3 or 4 countries where they want to connect and be part of this ecosystem. So that's one case. Another case I could say is, let me briefly tell you a little bit about the research project that UT Austin and Tec de Monterrey are working to launch this next year. And it's alongside the opportunity of developing research on top of the genome of 100,000 Mexicans and 40,000 Latinos or Texans, with the idea of building solutions that can develop personalized medicine. And that's the level of focus or impact now. That's one specific case that is going to be launched in March, no?
Okay. So let me ask you, what kind of technologies do you think work best in this kind of environment that you're building in Monterrey and Nuevo León? Is it a lot around supply chain, logistics, networking centers?
Well, today you know that Monterrey is just 2 hours away from the border crossing of Laredo and Nuevo Laredo, and that border crossing is now the busiest in the U.S. It surpassed LA in terms of goods that are imported or exported to that port.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, logistics is very strong. Manufacturing is also, we're a powerhouse around the automotive industry, but we have a very diversified manufacturing base here. Now, the opportunities that I envision going forward is that many of them are tech-enabled, that we can scale them very efficiently in Mexico and throughout Latin America. But the are areas of opportunity where I see that there's a lot of innovation, and I can talk a little bit about the portfolio that we've been constructing, for example,
Yeah.
is companies that are uh, the last decade, just so that you get a sense of what was the impact of this first 10 years of the venture industry being deployed in Latin America. When we started in 2010, only $70 million were being invested in this region. In 2021, the amount raised to 16 billion. So it was a huge growth. In those same 10, 11 years, the Latin American public companies lost $500 billion of value. And on those same 10, 11 years, the companies, technology or software companies that were launched and financed by venture investors, angels, accelerators, venture funds, seed funds, and venture funds, captured around 230, $235 billion. So this is a digital transition from the offline to the online. And
Yeah.
we see that during those first 10 years, basically two sectors capture most of the investment and the value, were the fintech sector and the e-commerce sectors. Today, we're seeing a shift that's also keeps being strong. But today, for example, obviously, the health sector, due to the pandemic and the disruption that is needed in the health space, is creating companies that are very, very strong using AI and scaling at rates of 20% per month with a potential to basically become generate revenue in the hundreds or thousands of millions of dollars. No? And uh, and the opportunity is massive because of the conditions of the health sector in a country like Mexico. Now, obviously, software and everything has some type of AI embedded or being used to create solutions that are very disruptive for what you see in Mexico or in Latin America. And these companies are being launched very efficiently, and also they test and get product market fit and traction very fast, faster than what we have seen before.
Mhm.
So these are the types of companies and sectors where we see that a lot of capital can be deployed from groups like us. The areas of potential impact that I'm pursuing them are semiconductors, the ecosystem of Austin with Tesla and Samsung
Mhm.
in need to connect in initiatives around innovation, entrepreneurship, and workforce development that need to be connected to make this region more competitive and attract more chip manufacturing to the U.S. or near shore the U.S.
Right. So now, give us some examples of some of your recent investments that carry that theme forward.
Uh,
Like, just give us one of your most recent exciting ones that you think is going to have huge potential.
from the investments that we have done,
From your own portfolio there.
from the own portfolio. So today, let me talk about Clivi. This is a digital clinic that embeds their technology is embedded in WhatsApp. The reality is that emerging markets are plagued with WhatsApp. Everything happens on WhatsApp, even quotes between companies. And so instead of creating another app or as a web solution, they decided to focus their energy in helping. This is an entrepreneur, contextually. This is an entrepreneur that is from Chiapas that created a company called Doctoralia that basically scaled in Mexico was scaled in Brazil. It became so big that the founder and CEO said, now I'm going to go and launch something more impactful, more interesting. And he created Clivi with the idea of, and this is the premise behind it. Chronic diseases cannot be conquered by going to the doctor every 3 or 6 months. They needed to be managed with daily decisions 24/7. And he decided to go after diabetes. Diabetes is a pandemic or syndemic in some countries like Mexico with the levels of obesity that we have and the bad health habits that we have. And it's not only Mexico. We see this in other emerging markets as well. But diabetes, we're 130 million. We have 20 million people diagnosed with diabetes, and close to 10 or a little bit more than 10 that are in the process of getting the disease. So today, they decided to launch a solution that basically creates it's a double-sided marketplace, but by design, what they do is that they bring people with daily monitoring through a monthly fee, where once they decide to get help, they have a baseline of clinical studies. And with that baseline, the system basically creates a profile of behaviors and supervision that that person individually needs to be able to have their glycemic index below 7, and in the process, lose weight. So what that person ends up getting is a glucometer, the strips, and the engagement through WhatsApp to basically share data every day to Clivi on what is their glucose levels. On the other side, you have an endocrinologist with the help of a nutrologist and psychologist that they have a dashboard where today one endocrinologist is able to serve 1,500 people on the platform that have the disease. A normal endocrinologist today in a traditional setting, they end up serving around 100 to 150. So this is like 10x or more than 10x.
Yeah.
The problem is that we only have one endocrinologist for every 20,000 people diagnosed with diabetes. So the gap is huge. The only way that you can basically attempt to service this disease is by using technology. So this is a company that launched this product last year. We invested in it. Their MVP, they raised $2.5 million on early stage. They got to $1.3 million of annual recurring revenue. We came on board with another group from the US, ended up investing into the company around $7 million. The company went in 13 months from 1.3 to 12.5 million annual recurring revenue. So they were growing like at 20% per month, 18% per month. And their forecast is to get to 33, 34 million ARR next year. This is a type of impact that you can create that is not only very good on the return side from the financial perspective, but the impact on the quality of life and the wallet of these individuals or their families, it's huge, because by lowering their glycemic index, they end up reducing around 95% of them their weight. And the combination of these effects translates into a life expectancy of 4 to 6 additional years for them. So this is what we call that we're doing venture, but we have a focus on impact. And this is something that I think it's very well designed and accepted in markets where there's opportunity to disrupt in many industries.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So what are some of the other main areas that you're investing in that have this kind of impact?
We have around health. Today we have diabetes, obesity. We're attending also digital imaging with a company that is called Eden that is scaling also super fast, not only in Mexico, but throughout Latin America and even outside Latin
Yeah.
America. We're looking at opportunities of women's health solutions.
Okay.
And that's on the side of health. Then on the side of financing, we financed a company, invested into a company that is it's called Galgo. This is a company that originally they were focused on helping migrants that were being displaced out of Venezuela so that they could get employed in the countries where they were arriving to. They ended up creating an e-commerce platform to sell motorcycles because the motorcycle becomes a tool to get employed in the platforms, the gig economy. And by getting employed, then they have a living, they take care of their families, but also have a better quality of life because they can move around, no?
Right.
That company started in Chile, but expanded fast outside of Chile, all the way to Colombia, acquired or merged with the biggest seller of motorcycles in Colombia. And now we're in Mexico, and we've funded it. It has already done a follow-on investment with a very good increase in valuation.
Okay.
And that's also a company that is, it's more on the fintech side. It's e-commerce with an embedded fintech solution on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I talk about other sectors, we're seeing AI, industrial AI applications is helping manufacturing companies implement solutions that increase the efficiency or lower the downtime of their lines, production lines, and with very interesting returns, or the value equation is super big on those type of interventions, and things like that. I can go through all of this, but
Yeah. Well, there was a question about, well, you actually brought up semiconductors earlier on.
mhm.
So are you investing in semiconductors as well?
Eh, Not yet. I was looking at these past days at an opportunity around the energy,
Uh-huh.
how to help the data centers become much more efficient around energy. One of the areas, and just so that you get an understanding of what we do as an investment thesis, we have basically three areas, what we call inclusion. And for us, inclusion is how do we deploy a low-end market disruption play so that we can basically help expand or make the market bigger, and we
Mm-hmm.
take an unfair market share of that growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do it with education solutions, health solutions, financial solutions, access to work solutions, those type of things. On the other end, we have also a focus on climate innovation solutions that where we're basically looking to use technology to mitigate, or in some cases, we're even able to make some adaptation measures with the technologies that we're supporting, no?
Mm-hmm.
Last but not least is the third area is efficiency or productivity in organizations, basically businesses, with AI and software solutions.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
So today, semiconductors, the angle that we're looking at it is more from the innovation side on energy consumption, and so that those semiconductors can be used more efficiently, more in the data center environment.
Okay.
That's where we're focused today.
Okay, very good. And these are all in Nuevo Leon, or where are these investments?
Throughout Mexico and Latin America.
All
Mm.
throughout, I
All
see.
throughout.
Okay.
Yes, we basically reach out. We have visibility to deals in the US or Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. Those are the main markets where we are investing.
I see. And who do you co-invest with most often? You mentioned that you had a co-investor, I think from US.
Yes, in Eden it was with Sierra Ventures. Today, there's a group looking at one of our companies. They're still not co-investors, but they're looking at it. This is our Khosla Ventures. So some from Silicon Valley, but we have more than 200 co-investors within our companies. No, the companies that have grown the biggest have been with investors like General Atlantic, GA, or SoftBank.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, some of our companies have been acquired by U.S. companies. Like, for example, we sold Technisys to 2 years ago to SoFi from California.
Uh-huh.
Today we have two companies doing IPOs. Well, one doing already formally an IPO process in Nasdaq. The other is going to, uh, we think that it's going to be ready to do an IPO in the next year, 2 year and a half. So it's a mix, no, but at the end, we do have many groups. Either we work with 45 family offices, mostly from Mexico. The chairmen of the board of the big conglomerates and their families are investors through us.
Hmm.
But also, more recently, besides having some fund of funds and pension funds investing, now we just received commitments from DFC, Development Finance Corporation, that is the development bank of the US, from JICA, that is the Japan International Cooperation Agency, that is the development bank of Japan. And they're very abundant. They want to have impact and they want to focus on helping the ecosystem evolve and become more sustainable.
Hmm.
That's the
Great.
right path to go forward in our partnership for North America.
Sure, absolutely. And you're also, what fund are you investing in right now? You've raised several, right?
Sure. The third fund, and we're gonna finish closing that fund from fundraising basically by March of this next year.
Okay. And can you give us an idea of the fund sizes?
The first fund was 70 million, the second fund was 80, and this third fund is going to be around 80 also.
I see. So right now with change in leadership in Mexico and also in the United States coming up, how do you think that this is going to impact the investment scene and the cross-border innovation scene? Yeah, Mexico is very much in the news, and including China, of because of the issue of getting around tariffs through going of Chinese companies using Mexico to get into the U.S. market. I'm just curious, what do you think? A couple issues there I just brought up, but first on what do you think the impact will be? Are you bracing for some sort of trade war or tariff war with new political leadership? I already have seen the two heads of the Mexico and the new president-elect going at it somewhat. So it could be for exciting times.
Well, I mean, politicians come and go, but definitely what's going to stay is that we're going to keep be neighbors for many years. And today the three topics of fentanyl, um,
Yeah,
immigration, and stopping or limiting China from
yeah,
accessing the
yeah.
U.S. Are the three topics where Mexico has to align itself with the interests of the U.S.
Mm.
And in my opinion, uh, this is what we have heard so far is that it's going to align us as an economic bloc to a level that we have not reached before. Because in the past, maybe Mexico or even Latin America was not on the high on the agenda. Today it is. And that is very good because we're going to be able to integrate and become much more close and aligned in the economic and political interests of this region. And I'm happy for that. Now, is there going to be volatility in the first 2 or 3 months of next year? Definitely, it's going to be. And during the negotiation of the USMCA in 2026, definitely as well. But I will never bet against America or the integration of this region as neighbors and friends and family, because as I have always said, if I look at my 23andMe or if I look at my ancestry, I have many people on the other side of the border that are somehow linked with my family, no? So
Yeah,
we need to think of this differently.
yeah,
The partnership that I'm pursuing between two big universities, UT Austin and Tec de Monterrey, as leaders in each of those two cities, is a foundation to build many other partnerships through different institutes that can work on examples. The water issue that we have is a systemic problem. The energy issues that we have. But also we can also explore the opportunities of semiconductors, of the space industry. I was last Saturday at Brownsville with the mayor of Brownsville was here at Inc. in November, and he plans to bring a big delegation of people in the Space Fund and different groups that are interested in connecting having stronger ties with Monterrey and with obviously San Antonio, Austin, and Houston, uh, because the space industry is being developed here somehow, and they need talent. They need access to different types of resources, and it's better if we do it together.
yeah. Could you talk a little bit about the connections with UT Austin? You mentioned this Texas Triangle. Could you
Yes.
explain the Texas Triangle for those who are not familiar with it?
So there are 29 regions in the world that produce $85 trillion. In the top 10, there is this Texas Triangle that basically produces $2 trillion, and it encompasses the area of Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and includes Austin. Now, that triangle is very strong and diversified. It's 2 times the size of the economy of Mexico. And in Mexico, Northeast Mexico is already very tied into that region in different fronts. One of the things that I pursue is that instead of calling it the Texas Triangle, I call it the green flag, because I just throw a line down the Highway 35 that goes through the Laredos all the way to Monterrey and Saltillo. And I place it as the green flag because we should be betting on the low carbon economy, where Texas is taking a very leading role in many instances.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we're basically complementing ourselves. In that list of 29 regions, this Texas Triangle was in position number 7 around the world. Of Latin America, you only had Sao Paulo in Brazil at the middle of the table with 600 billion of throughput, and Mexico City at the end of the table with around 450 billion. So for us, the borders are imaginary. It's really a political constraint that we have put
Yeah.
on ourselves. It's more, how do we create a region that becomes more attractive and synergetic? And the footprint of what we do here can be something that can be copied for other collaborations alongside the border between the US and Mexico.
Okay. How is Trump regarded there? Are people looking forward to this change of leadership, or are they nervous about it?
Well, I mean, we don't know what we don't know, but Trump has already demonstrated that he's pro-business. Wants to deregulate industries that are prone to more innovation. As an example, I mean, today, while I was in Bronzeville last weekend, today SpaceX is producing a ship every 2.5 months. They cannot do it faster because there are regulations and limits on how this is processed. Their
Uh-huh.
objective is to get it to 2 days and a half, and they want to have 180 launches every year.
Wow.
Today, every time they launch a ship to space or they do a test, the city gets around 20,000 people, and it's everything is full, and hotel prices skyrocket, and
Sure.
so there are many things that are happening around the space, around energy. There are two the biggest energy project today in the U.S. is happening there. It's called Rio Grande LNG, and it's a huge project that is going to take 10 years to be built. And it's a strategic project to be able to produce and export liquid natural gas to Europe to basically give them some independency from Russia. So these are the projects that are happening where multi-billion-dollar investments are taking place, and that I think that are very synergistic in building not only the capabilities but a stronger collaboration and ties between both sides of the Rio Grande.
That's great. That's great. So we hear a lot about electric vehicles as well. And of course, China getting way ahead in electric vehicles and BYD.
Hmm.
Any comment on that? Because I did see a lot of BYD when I was just there recently.
I know. Well, that's one case in point. For many years, to be able to sell cars in the Mexican market, you needed to build a production facility here. And that's what General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, and BMW, and Toyota, and many Japanese, Korean. We have a huge Kia plant here that is planning to produce 1 million cars out of the production facility in Monterrey. But we have also the Germans and some European ones. Now, in the last 12, 18 months, we've seen 16 brands of Chinese cars appear.
Wow.
BYD is the most common that we know, but there are 16 right now, and they have already taken 30% market share of the new car sales here in the country. Why? Because their prices are so low compared, and the product is not bad, it's good, but they're so low compared to the alternatives.
Mm,
Tesla prices are here, but then they're coming down, but they're not coming down as fast as they should, and that's why these brands are, without doing the investments or without having uh, local consumption or integration of components, they're basically sending cars because uh, I can talk a little bit about my last trip to China, and I can tell you my perspective of what I heard being there. But it's incredible that they're willing to sell these products outside because there's an excess capacity that the internal market is not
right.
capable of absorbing. And
Yeah.
at some point, they're willing to sell below price, below cost. No?
Right. Right. You see a lot of opportunities for China and Mexico to work together?
I mean, definitely the critical sectors, they will not be accepted at all. Semiconductors, areas where telecommunications, where there are vulnerabilities, they will not be accepted.
Mhm.
And that's going to be very clear.
Mm,
So Mexico has to be more proactive in analyzing and limiting the types of investments that are allowed and the ones that will not be allowed.
yeah.
Now, there are opportunities. Why? And I don't think that tariffs are going to limit those type of opportunities. The reason that I say this is that 8 out of 10 people that we got in contact with during that trip to China recently, they want to get out of China.
Yeah.
They're not, they don't feel comfortable in the future of their country because of the crisis that they're living in, because the demographic evolution that they will take, that it's going to take place, that is going to be a huge crisis for them as well. And the other thing is that they have seen examples of retaliation, I would say, of how the government has aligned some prominent figures in tech or in traditional industries, where they say everything that I have here, that capitalist model within the Chinese regime is not really what they were hoping for. And they say that everything that I have here is not mine, so I should diversify myself. And they want to get their assets out or diversify their revenue. In the first place that they have to look at is Southeast Asia. I'll give you one example. Today, I have met with, we met, or I had meetings with tech startups, CEOs of tech companies. They say, I cannot raise any more money here, and the public markets are closed. There's no way in the policy of China today, growth and technology is not the priority. So they have to get out. And the way to get out is that they need to raise money out to be able to expand into Southeast Asia or Latin America. And the interest in Latin America is because the market is big, but also because that could provide them potentially a path to liquidity. And GPs that cannot raise new money or into funds or for their companies, the only way to monetize what they have built in these past 10, 20 years is that they have to keep investing. They're creating funds, US dollar denominated funds in Singapore, to help them get out and basically expand outside of China. So that's a trend that I was talking to some months ago to the ambassador of Mexico in China, and they said there are 2,000 companies, Chinese companies, that they already have their entity, their company based in Mexico. It's not active yet, but they're waiting to see what's going to happen, what are the consequences of this election, and the different decisions that they end up taking around tariffs. No? So this is going to today. I met with a company that has a logistics solution, a great platform out of Mexico. And they said, well, we're helping BYD bring all their cars here, but they have excess inventory now, and now they're sending it from here to Central and South America. There's a map that I have that I can share with you later, that it says in 2000, the main partner of each of the Latin American countries, none of them had China. In 2020, more than half of them have China as their main partner, business partner in their imports or their exports.
Yeah, I'd love to see that map. If you could please share it with me later
I'll
on.
send it to you.
Yeah. Well, the China element is fascinating, and people are saying anything but China
Well,
for investment. So Mexico is benefiting from some of that
I
feeling.
mean, there's a lot of capital that was being deployed in China that it stopped being deployed in China. So
Yeah.
they should look at, I don't know if all of them, but they should look at Latin America as an opportunity for deployment. Let me
Yeah.
just connect my computer.
Okay, sure. So in the meantime, I'm looking at how Kelman's had a few questions about whether there are any leading edge fabs in Mexico. And if you could just answer that real quickly, I want to get to your map as well. So any leading edge fabs in Mexico?
Software development or
Uh,
Hardware,
hardware?
hardware,
Well,
because you never know. A year and a half ago, I went to Memphis. It wasn't even on the map, and that's where AI had 100,000 GPUs. So there are different places in the 195 countries in the world that don't get publicity, but stuff is going on. I just wanted to
okay,
know if you knew of anything in Mexico.
well, the area of around Guadalajara has a very strong footprint of technology companies, all the way from the HPs and Intels. But today, the biggest semiconductor fabrication that is being produced, or manufacturing facility is being produced, is going to be set up here in Mexico, in that area. Then you have on hardware production or design and production. I mean, Mexico is a center. uh, Even if we don't want, but it's going to happen. Mexico is going to become the manufacturing center for many, many of the industries that the U.S. needs. And there's already a very strong footprint or base of manufacturing around the automotive sector.
right,
But that is going to expand into electronics and semiconductors and other more higher value industries, going all the way to health
yeah.
and the aerospace as well.
So you see this expanding, shifting from China to Mexico
Yes,
in the coming years.
yes.
I see partly because of all the geopolitical tensions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so let's see your map. Were you going to show your map, Rogelio?
Oh, let me see if I can
Um, or
quickly.
I love, yeah, it was really interesting, your comments about people wanting to get out of China and looking for new markets and raising dollar funds in other markets, looking for ways to get liquidity, because the IPO market in China has been pretty dry, nothing happening for a few years. But lately we've seen a few Chinese tech companies list on NASDAQ. Those are both in mobility. WeRide was one, and there was another one in mobility as well. So I think we'll continue to see some of that.
Well,
And you mentioned you had some companies that are headed toward listings in the US.
yes, we have a couple of them that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
advanced in that process. In fact, they were ready at the beginning, but with the pandemic and the change in
Mhm.
policy, those plans had to be delayed.
Yeah,
Something that has affected everyone. No?
yeah. Sorry, yeah, I'm really interested in your comments on China.
Uh, I would say that just I'm seeing if I can reach to that figure that I had here that I wanted to show you. But uh, today, I think that the interest of Chinese people is to diversify out of China,
Yeah,
because they have excess capacity installed
yeah,
that is not being used, or
right,
because they don't want to lose the U.S. market,
right.
or because as customers, or
Yeah,
because they want to diversify out because of the risk of concentration.
right.
So
Okay,
I would say that that's what's driving this. And there are going to be opportunities that are going to be capitalized by Chinese have been diversifying even outside of China to Southeast Asia or other parts of that region. But there are going to be sectors that will be allowed and sectors that will not be allowed. And
right,
this at the end what we're going to see with tariffs and strong positions around negotiating the USMCA and and being able to keep importing goods that are not being produced that are being produced outside of North America.
Right. So, well, a lot of issues to watch as the next few months unfold. And I think this is a very excellent discussion starting point. And we'll keep watching. And Rogelio, maybe you could send the map to me later and I could share it with the group then.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'll make sure that I send that map to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And for those who are interested, our next event is going to be live and it's going to be in Vegas, Las Vegas at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. That's January 7th. And it's Asia focused, Asia, Silicon Valley. I guess we could bring in Latin America too, but anyhow, it's Asia and Silicon Valley, tech and venture. And we've got a great program lined up as a side event to CES. And then after that, we have a program coming up in Palo Alto, California on January 23rd with the former CEO of Silicon Valley Bank. And he's going to be talking about not only Silicon Valley Bank's experience, as many of you know, it didn't make it, and also their experience in China. It's a whole other aspect of the Silicon Valley Bank story. So those two things are coming up, and I just wanted to highlight them really quickly for those who could put it on their calendar. And thank you, Rogelio. That was really interesting. I'm sorry we just the time went so fast, and it usually does that when you have an interesting speaker. Okay, well, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Rebecca. Have a great day.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.